things that affect that supply and demand curve. So things that are pretty straightforward, so things that affect supply. So what we're getting into is that talking about real estate, we're talking about houses or real estate, whether it's commercial or rental property or houses or whatever, just the real estate. How much of it's out there? What are the things that affect that supply? At the top of page, I'm sorry, at the bottom of page 6, we're looking at labor force, construction, and material costs. So one of the primary drivers of supply is new construction. How many new houses are being produced in an area? So depending upon what labor is available, if the materials are available, the costs to doing all that stuff will affect how many houses are built. Best example of this, I had this happen to me personally, was I was building my own private residence of mine back in 2006 when Hurricane Katrina hit. And so prior to Hurricane Katrina, I had my home budgeted to build, and you know, I got quotes for drywall and plywood and all this stuff, lumber and all those things. Had quotes from contractors for all this stuff. And so I knew what the cost was approximately going to be. And then Katrina hit, and then the demand, the demand for supplies, drywall, lumber, and all that shifted down south. All the construction labor that was here in Indiana, all of them went down south. So as a result, the local market dried up for a little bit. Cost of drywall almost tripled. Cost of labor went up quite a bit because there weren't as many contractors around. They all moved down south to handle all that need down there. So that affected housing, that affected construction, had a big impact on us for a period of time. So we're looking at that. At the top of page 7, we're looking at governmental controls. For those of you that took the class, or we're in section 3, we talked about this briefly, about governmental controls. We talked about fiscal policy, we talked about monetary policy, that the government, the Fed specifically, can control, not directly control interest rates, but control how banks operate, talking about discount rates, talking about minimum savings requirements, things like that, deposit rates and things like that. So depending on what the Fed and what the federal government does can affect the amount of money that's in circulation. The less amount of money that's in the market means that interest rates are going to increase. If interest rates are increasing, that can affect what people do when they're looking at buying homes or supplying homes, selling homes, things like that. So those are big deals. We also look at building codes, environmental concerns, zoning can also control an area. So it's all those things that can control how much housing or how much real estate is in a particular area. Then on page 7 at the bottom, we talk about factors that affect demand. So we're talking about the people that want to buy homes, the people that want these things. What can affect that? The first one is population. Just how much growth is there? So population and we're going to talk about employment also. They're tied together quite often. Population centers usually grow in areas of prosperity and jobs and all that. So think about Greensburg, Indiana, 20 to 25 years ago. Most people never heard of Greensburg, Indiana. Didn't even know where it was. Population of 500 or whatever, I don't know, I'm making up a number. Not very many people out there. Not very many retail centers out there. Not many McDonald's out there. Not much of anything out there. But then Honda announced that they're going to put out the Honda plant. Start building Honda Civics out there. Going to create thousands of jobs out in that area. When they did that, the population went from 500 to 10 million. Or whatever. Again, I'm making up numbers. But it exploded. Got crazy. So the cost of land increased. Retail centers were popping all over the place. Gas stations, McDonald's, all those things, office complexes blew up. Housing blew up. So the population shifted down in that area. So population, the growth and all that happens, and then obviously again that's tied to employment quite often, because another case that we've dealt with, or what we've noticed, is up in Anderson, GM shut down one of their plants, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, and it really hurt the Anderson economy. But then Nestle went in up there off of I-69. Anyway, it's up on I-69, you see the big Nestle Quick bunny that's up there. So Nestle was kind of the saving grace for Anderson, because at first it looked like the population was going to dwindle, demand was going to restrict because the employment market went away. But then Nestle stepped in and put their plant up there and really helped that city. I didn't skip it, but in between those two is demographics. So demographics looks at a lot of things, but basically the composition of the people that are in the area. So we're looking at what are their ages, the number of people that are in the area, but also wages that they earn. So when we're looking at demographics, we're saying, okay, we're in Carmel, where the average income of a citizen in Carmel might be, I'm totally making up a number, might be $175,000. Where if you look in Greenfield, maybe the average person out there makes $70,000, something like that. So it's maybe the populations are very similar, but the demographics would say that Carmel has a higher income base per citizen, as opposed to other areas that don't have as high of income per citizen. So demographics would recognize that. So if we're in an area where people are earning $175,000, that's going to affect the type of houses and the number of houses we're building in an area. So that's going to affect the supply of people that want to buy these things, or demand, I'm sorry, of people that want to buy these things, as opposed to maybe lower income areas that don't have that demand. Or if they have the demand, it's for smaller, lesser, lower priced homes, things like that. So demographics would recognize all that.